fighting course.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Glacial Geek Kill Team Battle Report. I am Phil, the Glacial Geek, coming to you here from Savannah Lion Games in Pooler, Georgia, where I'll be fighting a 125-point battle of Kill Team Elites between my Dark Angels and Neil's Thousand Sons. So the story that we've got going on here is that the Dark Angels have been pursuing this warband of Thousand Sons throughout the galaxy, hunting them down in hot pursuit, and the Thousand Sons needed to just refuel the gaslight came on on their battle cruiser. They needed to refuel, so they stopped on this outpost here with an oil refinery to try to get some fuel for their ship, and the Dark Angels decided to take this opportunity to try to strike back, to try to keep them from refueling, to hopefully hold them long enough that they could get some reinforcements to help take them out once and for all. So that is the story. We are going to be playing one of the missions from the new Kill Team Elites book called Escalating Conflict. It's easy for me to say. Essentially what it is we have one objective in the middle there, and it's entirely on who controls that objective at the end of the game. If no one controls that objective at the end of the game, or if it's tied, if we equally control that objective, it's contested, then it goes to whoever has the largest force still on the battlefield in points at the end is the winner. So that's the story. That is the mission. Before we go any further, though, let's show you the two kill teams that are going to be fighting it out. So for the Dark Angels, my kill team will consist of, from left to right there, my leader, who is a company veteran sergeant with a meltagun. I then have a Terminator with a Power Fist and a Stormbolter. He will be my Zealot specialist. I have a Terminator gunner with a plasma cannon and a Power Fist. He will be my Heavy specialist. And I have a Terminator sergeant with a Power Sword and a Stormbolter. He will be my combat specialist. And the Thousand Sons, from left to right, his kill team will consist of a Scarab Occult Sorcerer with an Infernal Combi Bolter and a Force Stave. We then have a Scarab Occult Gunner with a Soul Reaper Cannon and a Power Sword, who will be a Demolitions Expert. We then have a Scarab Occult Terminator with an Inferno Combi Bolter and a Power Sword. He will be his Zealot Specialist. And we have an Aspiring Sorcerer with an Inferno Bolt Pistol and a Force Stave. He will be his Combat Specialist. Alrighty, so that is those are the two kill teams that are going to be fighting it out today. Going over deployment, I've got my Heavy Specialist up on top over here. I've got my leader down over in the building here, as well as my Zealot Specialist, and my Combat Specialist is in reserve. This is a new rule and deployment ability that came out in Elites, is the ability to keep up to half of your army, half of your kill team in reserve. So you deploy them off the battlefield, and they can come in at the end of any movement phase. So there's no first turn keeping you off. So you can come at the end of the first movement phase if you want, but there's no moving afterwards because it's at the end of the movement phase. And essentially, if you just do a base rules, then every model that comes in off of reserves has to be set up within 1 inch of a table edge, more than 5 inches away from enemy models, and wholly within your deployment zone. If there's a universal tactic that essentially called outflank, which allows you to ignore the deployment zone portion, so you still have to be within 1 inch of the table edge and 5 inches away from enemy models. But then there's also some other tactics that you can spend that are specific to each of the different factions that allow certain types of models, for instance Terminators or people with jump packs, to deep strike within 5 inches of an enemy model anywhere on the table. So it would ignore as well the 1 inch table edge requirement. So he is in reserves. He'll be coming in later in the game. Going over deployment now for the Thousand Sons. He has his Demolitions Expert up on top over here. He's got his Zealot Specialist down in the building over here. And then he's got his Leader and his Combat Specialist both in reserves. So again, have to have half your models on the table, have to have half your models in number on the table, and you also have to have at least half in points on the table. So he has his 2 Terminators on the table there, which more than equals out half of his models here. So that is deployment. As of right now, we don't know who's going to go first because that's not how Kill Team works. We are now going to roll to see who has initiative going into turn 1. I rolled a 5, my opponent rolled a 10, so we'll come back to you after movement phase for the Thousand Sons. All right, going over movement here for the Thousand Suns. His demolitions expert up here readied himself, and his zealot specialist advanced over there behind that wall there. Any reserves would happen at the end of the movement phase, not his movement phase, so we will have to see if these guys will be coming in after I do my movement, which we will come back to you after. All right, movement phase for the Dark Angels here. My company veteran leader here, he just moved up over into this position here. My guy up here readied, and my my zealot specialist over here moved up to that position. So that's it. That's the end of the movement phase. So we're going to come back to you and show you if anybody comes in from reserves. All right, so out of reserve, my opponent spent 2 CP, 1 to bring in his regular guy over here with outflank, which allowed him to go within an inch of the, he has to be within an inch of the table edge, and he has to be within an inch of the table edge and more than 5 inches away from any model, so he moved him over here so you can see him, but that my melta guy doesn't get line of sight onto him. This guy does have line of sight onto him around the corner there, but I mean, it is what you could do. He also spent 1 CP to deep strike this dude bro over here, so he just had to go 5 inches away from enemy models because he's a Terminator model. They get the ability to do that for 1 CP. So he dropped in over here 5 inches away from my melta bro over here, but still hidden from my plasma bro up there. So pretty good maneuvering. He worked it out, works out pretty well. I also spent 1 CP to drop my guy back over here. I just did the deep strike, but even though I'm within an inch of the table edge, that's just where I wanted to be. So I'm more than 5 inches away from his zealot guy over here, but not in sight of his demolitions guy here. So that's it for the movement phase is now officially over. We'll come back to you with the psychic phase. All right, so Thousand Suns have basically their chapter tactic that they have is that when it's the psychic phase, they can elect up to 2 models to cast psychic powers in a turn. You have to completely finish with the first one before you move on to the second one. So if you decide to do psychic power with this guy, went over here to do a second power with this guy, he couldn't then go back to this guy to spend a CP to do a second power. It doesn't work that way. You have to do one guy completely before you move on to the next one. Their psychic power, so they are allowed to use 2 guys that they can do, but they also have an increase of 3 inches to their psychic abilities as well in their psychic power there. So we're going to start over here with his aspiring sorcerer, who is going to use Cybolt into my gunner up over here, into my heavy gunner. So it's going to be looking for a 5 to go off. And on an 8, it does go off, so he takes 1 mortal wound. And now this guy over here is going to use his Cybolt into my veteran sergeant over here, looking for 5 again. Going off on a 9, so that does a mortal wound, which would take him out of action. So do an injury roll here. On a 6, he is out of action. All right, so into the shooting phase, his demolitions expert is going to now roll with his Soul Reaper cannon into my heavy specialist over here. So he's going to have 4 shots. These are at long range and also obscured. So 4 shots hitting on 5s. Getting 1 hit. So that's going to be strength. What is the weapon? Strength 5, so looking for, would be looking for a 3 to wound, but because he's the demolitions expert and I'm obscured, it will be a 2 to wound. That is a wound. AP minus 3, so I'm down to my 5 up invul save over here, so looking for a 5 up. No, does not go off. I'm gonna spend a CP to re-roll that, my last CP. No, not with that 1. Does now the out of action injury roll, I should say. On a 4, gets dropped down to a 3 because of the fact that he's obscured and within an inch of it. So he takes a flesh wound. All right, so now my heavy specialist is going to fire into his demolitions expert. I've got plasma cannon on him because Dark Angels are allowed to have plasma cannons, and he is going to fire into him. I'm going to supercharge it, so it's heavy D3 shots. So it's going to be 2 shots here. He's at half range, but he is obscured, so I'm going to be hitting on 4s. I do, because of the fact that I've got Dark Angels chapter tactics, it allows me to re-roll hit rolls of 1 if they haven't moved in this battle round, which he hasn't. So he'll get to re-roll 1. So hitting on 3s, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s. Getting 1 hit. Strength 8, toughness 4, looking for a 2 to wound. And on a 4, that is a wound, AP minus 3, so down to a 5 up save here. And he makes it. All right, so now in the regular shooting over here, this guy is going to fire his pistol into my dude bro up here. He's not obscured, but he is more than half range, so he's going to be hitting on a 4. No hit. All right, so now my guy over here is going to fire into his combat specialist back here. He's within half range and not obscured because you can just see around the corner straight at him standing there. So it's going to be 4 shots with his storm bolter there. These are going to be hitting on 3s. All right, so it's going to be 3 hits. Strength 4, toughness 4, looking for 4s to wound. Getting 1 wound. AP nothing, so 3 up save.
Oh, it's a 2-1.
Oh, that's a regular guy there.
All is dust.
All is dust, so it's going to be a 2 up save. Hey, he remembered. There you go on a 5.
Okay, it's okay.
Actually, he doesn't have that because he's the aspiring sorcerer, but it's still on the 5. He was fine. And now my combat specialist is going to shoot into his zealot specialist because his other guy doesn't have anyone that he can see since he mind zapped the one guy that he had sight on. So this is going to be 4 shots into him as well, hitting on 3s. Whew, that's a lot of 1s. 1 hit. Looking for a 4 to wound. Hey, that's a wound at least. 2 up save on him over there.
Don't you have Grim Resolve?
No, but he moved because he came in from reserves. Yeah, I would have rerolled those ones, but he did move. So here we go. So this is going to be 1 2 up save. No, he takes a wound. All right, and that is going to be it for the that's it for the turn here. So we're now going to roll to see who has initiative going into turn 2. With 9, my opponent will be going first. So we'll come back to you after movement for the Thousand Suns. All right, movement phase. This guy over here readied himself. He moved up over this way 6 inches. He moved over this way 5 inches because he's the sorcerer. And this guy back over here, his zealot, is going to charge into my combat specialist, who is going to Overwatch. Because he has Grim Resolve, it says Overwatch. It works in Overwatch. He has not moved this battle round, so he deep struck in on turn 1. This is turn 2, so he has not moved yet. So he gets to reroll 1s in Overwatch. Here we go. So looking for 6s. Getting 1 6, but no 1s to reroll there. So it's going to be strength 4, toughness 4, 4 to wound. That is a wound. He's got a 2 up save. Oh, he just makes it, but he makes it. And then his charge distance right here. So I think he's got like a, what is it, a 6-inch charge? Yes, 6 inches will get him in here. And on 7 inches, he will be in. All right, movement phase for the Dark Angels. My heavy specialist up here is going to ready himself. He has to stay in combat over there. And now this guy, my zealot specialist, is going to charge into his bro over here. So his Overwatch looking for a 6. No hit there. So he's charge distance. On a 2, I don't think that's enough. 1 second. All right, so I'm going to have to re-roll that with my only command point for this turn because he killed my leader there. So he is going to charge in over here. Looking for a 3-inch charge is all I need. I just need 3, so don't double 1s me again. Okay, there we go. Not much, but still enough. All right, so into the psychic phase, he is going to now cast it over here. He's going to activate this guy. He nominated both of the guys who are in close combat, so we're going to start over here. So looking for 5 for Cybolt. Does go off, so he takes 1 wound. And then his zealot over here is going to cast Cybolt. And on a 9, it does go off, giving me 1 wound. All right, into the shooting phase. His demolitions expert here is going to shoot into my dude bro here. So he's got 4 shots, hitting on 5s because of range and obscurement. One second. All right, so here we go. 4 shots here, hitting on 5s because of range and obscurement. Getting 1 hit, strength 5, so it'd be wounding on 3s, but +1 because he's a demolitions expert and he's obscured.
Burn the command point.
No, not on a 1. My opponent's going to spend a command point to re-roll that. Probably a good call since all he needs is a 2. Into a 2, that is a wound. AP minus 3, right? So it's looking for a 5 up save. No, does not get it, and I cannot re-roll that. So is he going to be out of action? 3 gets down to a 2 plus the 1. +1 -1 becomes a 3 again. So he takes another flesh wound.
I will do my best.
All right, so now my heavy specialist is going to fire into his leader here. So he is going to supercharge, and it's going to be D3 shots here. So that's going to be 2 shots, hitting on 3s. That is going to be 2 hits. Strength 8, wounding on 2s. Wow. All right, so now his leader's going to shoot back at me. He's within half range, so he's going to have 4 shots because he's got the Inferno Combi Bolter there. These are going to be 4 shots hitting on 4s because of Obscurement. Getting 3 hits. Strength 4, so looking for 4s to wound. That is going to be 2 wounds, AP -2. So he is going to be looking for 2 4-up saves. Failed one of them. So +2 to this roll, -1 to this roll. And on a 3 is going to be +2, 5, -1, 4. He is out of action.
Yes.
All right, so starting out the fight phase, his Zealot is going to attack into my dude over here. So he's got 3 attacks since he charged. These are going to be hitting on 3s. Getting 3 hits. These are going to be wounding on 3s because he's got strength +1 because of being a Zealot on the charge. Getting 2 wounds, AP -3 because of the AP, because he's got a power sword there. So looking for 5-ups. Making 1, failing 1. So he will be down to 0 wounds there. So is he going to be out of action? On a 3, he takes a flesh wound. All right, so now my guy who charged over here will attack. He's got 3 attacks because he's the Zealot Specialist. Looking for hitting on 4s, though, because it's unwieldy with the Power Fist. Getting 1 hit. Strength 5 × 2, so strength 10. Wounding on 2s. That is a wound. AP -3, so he's going to be looking for a 6-up save.
Invul 5.
Oh, he's got an Invul 5 on a regular guy? Regular guys have Invul 5?
All my guys do.
Really? They all have Invul 5? 1 second. Yeah, favorite of Zinch, they've got a 5-up Invul save. I did not realize that. So here we go. 5-up save. No, does not go through. Oh, my opponent's going to spend his last CP for the round. Into a 6. He's good. All right, so now his Aspiring Sorcerer here is going to attack into me. He's got 2 attacks, hitting on 3s. Getting 2 hits. Force Stave is strength +2, I believe, so it's going to be looking for a 3 to wound. That is going to be 1 wound, AP -1, so this is going to be looking for a 3-up save. And with a 5, he's good. Woo! And now my Combat Specialist is going to attack back. He's got 4 attacks, 3 +1 because of being a Combat Specialist. Transhuman Physiology ignores that first flesh wound there, so it's going to be hitting on 3s. That is going to be 2 hits. Strength 4, Toughness 4, looking for a 4 to wound. With 1 wound, AP -3, so it's going to be looking for a 5-up save on your Zealot there.
Don't just 1 wound?
Just 1 wound, yeah, it's a power stuff. All is dust, so it's actually going to be a -3 would become 5, becomes a 4-up save. Oh, no, it's 1, oh, it's 1 wound, yeah, so he is good to go. Alrighty, so that is going to be it for turn 2 here. I have to roll for, to see if I'm broken because I have 2 guys out of action and 1 guy with a flesh wound. So here we go. He's got a leadership of 9. On a 6, they are good to go. And a Grim Resolve would actually let me re-roll that roll if I had failed that as well. So that is it for turn 2. We will now come back to, we will now roll to see who has initiative going into turn 3. I rolled a 9, my opponent rolled an 11, so we will come back to you after movement phase for the Thousand Suns. All right, movement phase for the Thousand Suns here. This guy stayed in combat, as did he. Both of these guys advanced over this way. This guy actually got to get up on top where the objective was, and that's going to be it for the Thousand Suns movement phase. Movement phase for the Dark Angel is going to be pretty simple. I am just going to stay in combat because it makes the most sense for me. So that is going to be it. We will come back to you with the Psychic phase. All right, so into the Psychic phase now. He's going to activate both the guys in combat. So we're going to start with this is Aspiring Sorcerer over here, looking for a 5 for Cybolt, going off on an 8. So that's going to do 1 mortal wound. Let's see, roll, see if he is out of action. On a 3, no, he takes a flesh wound. And now this guy over here is going to cast Cybolt. So looking for a 5 to go off. That goes off on a 6. So now we'll see if he takes, if he's out of action because it's just it's a mortal wound there. On a 5, he is out of action. All right, shooting phase. He's going to shoot him with his Infernus Bolt Pistol. Hitting on a 3. No hit. My opponent's going to spend a command point to re-roll that. No, not meant to be. All right, so into the fight phase. He goes first since he has the initiative. Hitting on 3s. 2 hits. Wounding on 3s. That is 2 wounds. AP -2 or 1? AP -1. So looking for 3 up saves. Oh, failed 1. Is he? I'm going to spend my CP, my 1 CP for this turn on that. Into a save with a filth phase. Woo! And now my Zealot Specialist is going to attack back. I've got 2 attacks hitting on 4s. That is going to be 1 hit, wounding on a 2. That is a wound, AP -3. So that's going to be looking for a 5-up invul save. No, that's going to go through. My opponent's going to spend his last CP to reroll that. And on a 5, he's good. All right, that is the end of turn 3. I have to roll to see if I'm broken because I've got 3 of my 4 guys out and my 1 guy's got a flesh wound. So here we go. Looking for an 8. Getting a 7, so he's good to go. But does he, with 3 guys out of action, he could actually fail his nerve test. On a 5, 6, 7, 8. No, he's good to go. A 6 would have been necessary to make him nervous. So that is it for turn 3. We will now look to see who has initiative going into turn 4. With a 3 and my opponent getting a 10. We'll come back to you after movement phase for the Thousand Suns. All right, movement phase. He stayed up there. This guy moved down over here. He moved up over this way, and he stayed in combat. So that's going to be it for movement phase because I'm going to stay in combat. So we'll come back to you with the psychic phase. All right, into the psychic phase. He is going to cast Psybolt onto my dude bro over here. On a 9, it will go off. So let's see if he is out of action. +1 to this roll. On a 4, he is out of action. And with that, we have a Thousand Suns victory. They were able to control the processing plant here, get all the fuel that they needed to fuel up their ship, and continue this chase through the galaxy. That was brutal. That was pretty awesome to see it all go. Like the Thousand Suns having their chapter tactic, being able to use their psychic. 2 guys have psychic powers is awesome. It's awesome. I know why all of you got mad at me when I messed up with the Grey Knights using all the psychic powers. These guys just having 2 guys use psychic powers was pretty baller. That was really awesome seeing them do that. And it was just a ton of fun. I really had a lot of fun. The big old dude bros is with the Terminators and the Scarab Occult Terminators was a ton of fun. So I really, really enjoyed it. And I think Elites is going to be a good addition to just the repertoire that you can use for Kill Team. Just opening up anytime you open up possibilities for what you can do and play with your friends is always a +1 in my book. So I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. I have been Phil the Glacial Geek as always. My opponent's been Neil, who is the one who painted all of this fantastic scenery. And until next time, have fun.